Good afternoon. Welcome to another PostCult Worldview ride-along. In this episode, I'm going to take a little break from the trajectory of my videos in this series so far, and you'll have to hold off to see my video on the subject of agnosticism. Hopefully that'll be the next one. But in this video, I want to address a topic that came to my mind yesterday, and I think it fits in with the subject of a post-cult worldview. As Jehovah's Witnesses, we were willing to die for our beliefs, and we know that tens of thousands of Jehovah's Witnesses and their children died for the blood doctrine, and they died for other doctrines, such as the belief that it was wrong to accept an organ transplant. So now it seems absolutely absurd to think that at that time we were willing to give our life for an organization that had doctrines that were so subject to change. But we were really captive to the idea that that organization was God's organization, and therefore loyalty to that organization at all cost did not seem unreasonable. Because again, we were captive of that concept. We were captive to that idea. Other organizations are similar. You know, you have the Church of Jesus Christ Scientists, where they avoid all medical procedures and will use prayer instead to try to heal themselves. If you're a Metallica fan, there's the song "The God That Failed." James Hetfield, the singer and the one who writes nearly all of the lyrics, was raised in a Christian Science household, and his mother died because of this idea. The question is, now that you are no longer a Jehovah's Witness and hopefully haven't joined any other cults, are there any ideas that you would be willing to die for? For me, I have a hard time imagining dying for a purely religious idea. To me, that's a death cult, even if it's mainstream. If you're willing to die for a belief system that is without evidence, and that's true of all religion, they're based on faith, which is, belief without evidence. If you're willing to die for that, it might not have all the characteristics of control that the Jehovah's Witnesses do, but essentially that's a death cult to me. If you're willing to die for some kind of promised future that is going to come to you after death. And really, even the idea of religious people thinking of that life after death as being the real life, living for the life to come, it feels very death cult-like to me. Now, speaking for myself as a non-believer, when I let go of my hope of anything after death, any certainty about a life to come, I've found that I value this life so much more. So really, the idea of giving it without really good reason is unthinkable. There's people that I would die for, but the question is, would I die for an idea? And I will say that my perspective on politics and social issues have really helped me view this question in a different way over these last almost 2 years since I've been out of the organization. I view life as a Jehovah's Witness as a form of slavery, and I've done more real living in the last 2 years than I did in the previous 12 years, where I was just basically in a fog, just barely existing. now being able to open my mind to all sorts of possibilities and do research on anything I want and develop relationships that are built on unconditional love. My heart just glows in a way that I never experienced as a Jehovah's Witness. So the life that I've experienced in these last 2 years shows me what a prison that I was in as a Jehovah's Witness. And in a way, I can see that a life of slavery is almost, and in many cases is, a fate worse than death. So now when I think about, for example, in the 1700s in the United States, well, they weren't the United States yet, when we had the Revolutionary War here on this continent, that people were willing to die for that idea because freedom is so valuable. There's that movie Braveheart where the Scotsmen are fighting for independence. And Mel Gibson's character at the end, what's the last word that he utters as he's being sawn asunder? He says, freedom. That is an idea worth dying for. If you are going to be enslaved, and giving your life will make it possible for people you care about to no longer be enslaved, that's a beautiful thing. Now, it's still scary to me. It's not something I'm like champing at the bit to do, but it's for the first time in my life that I'm actually able to understand that concept of dying for freedom, dying so that others can have freedom. I haven't mentioned it in this series yet, but I consider myself a humanist. That my central kind of faith, if I have one, is that humans have intrinsic value, and that humans are worth fighting for, and that humans are basically good. And I have this faith that humans are going to work it out eventually. They're going to sort through so many of the problems that we see on the planet now. And if you look at the past, there's so many that they have worked out. We can get bogged down in bad news right now, but there's so many things that humans have worked through. But a lot of it, people have had to sacrifice their lives for. So this cause of the good of humanity trying to move us forward, I'm so thankful for the people who have given their life for that. And I can understand it. So what are your thoughts? Is there any idea worth dying for? Would you die for an idea? Comment below, and I will talk to you again soon. Thanks for watching. And remember, there are more things in heaven and earth than are dreamt of in your philosophies.